Right.
We getting them dragon herbs or what?
Hey, dragon herbs. Mine's on the table there.
Oh.
We're live. We're streaming 30,000 people right now.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
recording.
Live.
Baby.
Hi, Mom.
Imagine we were live, though.
You can do that. You can go.
I know, we could do live.
And scene one.
Yeah. All right, here we are.
Okay, we're going to take some shots of dragon herbs to start it off.
Start it off. Yep. Here we go.
8 Immortals. This is
Super bomb.
cordyceps, wild reishi, goji berry, hoshewu, schizandra, snow lotus flower, Tibetan rhodiola, wild
You're gonna
Chinese
drip.
and
You're gonna
American
drip.
ginseng. Go ahead.
Oh, saved.
How many droppers did you take?
Go.
All right.
Should we cheers? Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Ding, ding.
I'm going to hit up 3.
I'll do that too. One more.
I only have like 3 left.
You full droppers? This is like your personal batch.
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
Yeah, it's all right though.
Knock yourself out.
It's all right though.
It's all good. We're abundant.
You want more?
I'll do one more.
Oh, it tastes like got a little boozy taste to it.
It does.
Yeah.
The alcohol.
Reminds me of.
It's the alcohol tincture, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Reminds me of like, literally the rum. It
I
tastes
know,
like
the
rum.
alcohol's really strong. I think it is cane alcohol too.
It's good for
Grain alcohol. How many did you take?
2.
You want a third? I took 3.
Okay.
So I'll get crunk.
Let's go. Getting crazy with the detox, dude.
Alright. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining us. This is, I don't know what this is, the first type of podcast of this fashion. We got Colin Pomeroy. He's been my video guy and dear friend for a couple years now. You've seen him in some of the skits. And we got David Beaudry, founder of Noble Movement Academy, epic, badass Qigong wizard. We're just going to have a chat. Every once in a while we'll look at the camera, but really we're just going to be chatting between ourselves. And no agenda, no filters.
Nice.
See
what happens.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys want to talk about? We had one subject in mind, didn't we?
We were
What
talking,
do men need?
what do men need, and then we were also talking about like masturbation and sexual energy and that kind of deal. That's always exciting. Isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what should we start with? What men need?
Yeah. What men need. Yeah. Like, what's the current?
Ease into the masturbation, you know. We
Yeah.
don't want to start with masturbation then.
Yeah. What's the current? What's what I'm looking for? Yeah. How can we be of most service? Like, what are men craving for? What do they need that will help? What comes to mind is like the how masculinity is being thrown under the bus right now. And it's like there's a healthy masculinity. What does that look like? How do we cultivate it? How do we embrace brotherhood and competition and these healthy forms of masculinity, but also hold the feminine nature of ourselves as well, the soft, the vulnerability, so there's that conversation about what is it to be a full spectrum human, and for our conversation, what is it to be a full spectrum man, and how do we get there? What are men needing?
Yeah.
Most men that I see in like male clients, their boy is so damaged and so hurt, and it's really, I can't even call most men yet, because their boy is just running the show. And we do these gymnastics to not let the boy be seen by other people, but that whole gymnastics is literally just the boy. You know what I mean? It's all part of the boy. So I feel that, most men are operating as a big boy, and that there's so many things that they're like hiding from or lying to themselves, or I guess I'll talk ourselves, because I do this too. But like not not integrated. That boy isn't integrated. He's lonely and scared, and he's like in a corner, and he's somehow still running the show. And I think that men really need warmth and compassion, and they need to be set free. So like we have to give men permission to be a warrior and in their bellies and ready to kill, and at the same time, and fierce, but at the same time be soft, gentle, easily wounded, easily injured, sort of creature as well. Because I think that most men are actually both. And I've grown up around fighters and wrestlers, and that culture is like fixated on being hard and only swaying to that one end of the culture. But I see, and I have seen that those men and boys also needed to be able to express that soft side, and they didn't have an avenue, and they didn't feel safe to do that. So I feel that men need to learn their boy. We need to learn our boy, and we need to learn that it's okay to be both.
Both polarities.
Yeah, so when you talk about that, like what immediately comes up for me is it feels to me like my child inside is running the show by not wanting to experience certain feelings. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's manipulating everything it can, so there's a certain part of me where it's like an I'm not enough thing, like a child inside that thinks I'm not enough, so I'm going to do everything I can to manipulate my environment so that I'm not seen as enough. So do you think that this is pretty common?
Totally. The vision that just came up as you said that was something that I had thought about like last year, was that, and I thought about doing a skit on this, which is like most men, their boys are running the show. And if you did like a comedy skit on what was going on in somebody's head when they were being filmed, or when they're on a date, or when they're talking to a girl, it's literally like, put arm here, like look good this way, my right side looks better than my left, like it's just like the boy like basically directing all of it. Do you like me now? Do you like, what do you think about me now? Do you like me if I sit like this? Do you like me if I talk like this? Oh, they think I look good now I look good, right? And it's like this narration, this like incessant narration of basically, do you think I'm good enough? Do you like me? And I think that when the boy's not integrated, it literally, you can see it, you can see it in someone's.
And the thread that I'm hearing you guys say is like worth, right? Self-worth, self-acceptance, those things. And so when we don't have healthy self-acceptance, self-love, self-worth, then, which all of us have to some degree, right? It's like there's time where we're beating ourselves up or whatever the case is. But so my question is like, how do you cultivate that? How do you cultivate self-worth, acceptance? How do I cultivate self-acceptance so that I'm not searching for approval all the time? And that was my story for, most of my life, was like, I need to be accepted, I need to be accepted, I need to be approved of, I need to be validated. And then when I'm around, powerful men or men that I look up to, I'm like, wow, they're really integrated, they got together. And that little boy is like, kind of like, what are they gonna think? Should I say this, or should I just, and then we tend towards shyness, towards whatever. We just kind of close down a little bit. We become a little more defensive, and so.
Yeah, I think the first big lesson that I had was that if we think about it in terms of results, like we all want results. We all want to have cool friends, to be successful, to make money, to have cool women or women in our life. And what I realized is that what actually yields the results is not giving a shit what anyone else thinks, right? So if that actually yields the results, then why would I ever play that other game, no matter how alluring or seductive it is, or how convincing it is to be truth, right? Like I have to do something in order to be liked. That whole paradigm, right? And so the first like realization I go through when I'm in a state of nervousness, or in a state of like wanting to be liked, or like wanting to be accepted, is this actually won't produce the results I want. And anyone can sniff this out from a mile away.
Yeah.
Anyone can sniff out manipulation or desire to be liked, neediness. Through, you know, when your words contain a backing of desire for approval, like everyone can feel that. And it takes, I mean, it's consistently taking me, and has taken me a long time to like purge that program from my being. But so that's the first thing, is like, wait a minute, this isn't going to actually get me what I want. And then I think the other piece that comes in is love. Like I have to give myself acceptance and love for who I am, what I am, my paradigm, all that I present to the table, right? Like everything that I am in this moment is constantly shifting. I would have sounded different a year ago. I will sound different a year from now. And my truth will change. My opinions will change. The only thing I can do is like deliver the truth that I am right now in this moment, unapologetically, because I'm going to be wrong about a significant percentage of everything I say right now. And I'm, you know what I mean? But are we just supposed to not speak because of that? Are we supposed to not express ourselves because we change so much? So I just feel like all I can do is just every single moment and every single word speak from a place of like, what is that download that's coming in? I feel like, you know, there's the mind way of looking at it, which is when someone's speaking, people say like, oh, what came into, or you know, the thought that I had, or what I was thinking about when you were saying that. I feel like it's downloads, right? Someone else is speaking, you get a download of where to take the conversation, of how to respond to that piece. And I feel like when we're clear, as we get clearer and clearer through detox and all the work, if you can choose that channel versus choosing the other channels, which are like, what should I say right now? What makes sense to say? What does he want to hear? What will make him like me more? What will make me sound good? What will make me sound smart? Versus like, you know, it's just like a clear, just like, you know?
As you're saying that, it made me think of the analogy of like, you know, I often talk about like a verticality or a pillar, and all the ancient traditions talk about the spine as being like the super highway to God or to self-realization. So you do, whether it's meditation or yoga or qigong, to like feel that alignment internally first, right? From your root to your belly to your heart to your mind. So you're like, I know what it feels like to be at home in my own skin, and I know how to love myself for the uniqueness that I am. And that's that vertical pillar. If we do that a little bit each day, just think about like brushing your teeth every morning. All right, I got to brush my teeth every morning and every night. Well, let me spend 5-10 minutes of just clearing all the clutter and all of the external noise, and just love myself. And I don't have to be anything. I don't have to prove anything. And then that becomes more normal. And then we can say no to that little boy voice that says, "Oh, you're not good enough, are you?" It's like, nope, that's just an old story. Or that's an old point. No, I am aligned. So I find myself having a conversation with myself during the day when I feel that fear, like, oh, you're not good enough for this, you're not smart enough. I'm like, no, that's wrong, actually. No, you're dedicated. You know, you love your work. You want something better for you know, people for you. And then it helps quiet that voice. So it's like like an inner no. It's like that sense of like there's a boundary that has to be set in our own self. Like, no, I'm not going to entertain that little boy. I'm not going to entertain those lower vibrational thoughts because I have a mechanism of aligning. But if we don't have a mechanism of aligning, then we're just kind of lost. And then that horizontal field, which is the environment, we just get distracted. Oh, maybe I should follow this guy. Maybe I should follow this teacher. Maybe I should build my business, and then I'll be happy. Maybe I should do all these different things. And then we're not sourcing directly. Now we're sourcing from things. We're sourcing from people. And then we try to find our truth from validation from all these other external sources, when it's like, it's always right here.
Yeah. Like using our own calculator versus using someone else's calculator. Like I had this feeling when I was drinking ayahuasca that, like, I remember after like 5 ceremonies, I was laying down, and it was the first time I ever heard my own voice in my head. My whole other life was other people's voices, other people's calculators. I would be like, what would Tim Ferriss do in this moment? What would Tony Robbins do here? And that's how my lens was before I, started deep spiritual work. I didn't have my own calculator, and we just use other people's calculators. And that's what these self-help books do, is they like give you someone else's calculator, someone else's, and then sure enough, you have 10 different calculators, and you're like, okay, this is time for Tim Ferriss's calculator. This is time, and it's like, where's my freaking voice in all this? You know, where's my, and I remember the visceral moment when it was a thought that was mine. Like I generated my own thought versus this conditioned brain that was running the show. You know, it took literally 5 ayahuasca ceremonies for me to have my first thought in my life. You know,
wow, what did it say?
Yeah, I think it was just like, the weather's nice
Oh,
today.
happy to be here.
yeah.
Oh, feeling pretty nice right now.
Yeah.
That makes me just feel into the importance of initiation that has been lost in our modern culture. You know, and most tribal cultures throughout eons have had initiations where we go through and we're like, yes, I'm welcomed into this next stage of, you know, teenage, 12 to 13. Now I'm like a young man, and I go through a process that marks it in my mind, like the closing of a chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. You know, and then at 18 or 21 or whatever, there's another. Okay, like you go on your vision quest, you go hunt, and you come back, and you are known as a different person. You have a new name or something. You're like, you're welcome back to the tribe. It's like, yes, I see you, I honor you, I love you as this new being. And that's what I feel like is really lacking in our culture, is these rites of passage and these simple initiations, you know, where we get to shed and just like, and just like let go of all of the story and all of the prior stuff, you know, and integrate it.
Yeah, and there's something about what you were saying earlier about the like, I don't know if this goes hand in hand with the ritual, but that it's like a muscle, that verticality you were talking about, where it's like, if we don't learn how to strengthen that muscle, you know, being taught from our whatever rite of passage or ancestors or something, then we just can't help but getting pulled in external factors.
We have no pillar to stand on. We're not plugged into our feet and our balls in the earth because no one in our cultures knows how to. You know, and no one has taught us how to like clear our mind and connect upward and just have space. Right? The Buddhists talk about, you know, spaciousness of mind. That spaciousness is actually our original nature. That open, spacious like the sky is our original nature. And it's the acquired mind that tries to take control. The acquired emotions, thoughts, feelings of our society and our culture. So, you know, over time, every sage or mystic or saint or whatever, they've had to get out of society. I gotta get out of this noise, man. It's just crazy. So here we are in the redwoods. You know, and it's an important part of our process. I feel like because we're so addicted to phones and technology and laptops, it's like we're constantly like this, like versus like, I'm in now, and everything's okay. I don't need to check my phone every 5 minutes, right? As soon as the buzzer beep, I gotta check. I gotta check the thing, you know. And then we're distracted, and we forget how to just be still and appreciate like the more subtlety.
Speaking of checking, I just had this fear that the audio wasn't running. Can you just check if the computer?
So now I find myself being like, so how do we do this again?
Yeah, that's what I was going to.
What, with a video?
No. Like, what we're talking about.
We kind of laid out, the worth, the acceptance, the need for approval.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now what's part of the answer? Getting in your center.
Right.
Practicing building that muscle. Rites of passage, right? Opportunities, whether it's once a month or once a week, or, you know, it's like we have to have these opportunities to just be with ourselves. You know, which is why I've always had the sweat lodges and the women do their thing, the men do their thing, and we get to cry and we get to scream and yell and hoot and holler and we let go of our old roles. And I find it in my relationship with my wife, and we have a little girl, and it's amazing. But that role of mom and dad and husband and wife, I can't go deep because I have a hat on. I gotta attend to my girl. I gotta attend to my wife, and then when we get outside of that, and whether it's me or her or it's like, space opens up. I can breathe. I can feel me connected to my true nature, and I'm not all these hats and these roles that I got to put on for my work or for my clients. You know, so I think that's part of it, is like making time for yourself to get outside of your roles and just because if not, you're always going to identify with a role.
It's not really who we are.
Not really who we are.
Yeah.
I think another way for us to crack out of this paradigm that we're in is to. I recently filmed a video about like creating an override in the system, which is an override towards speaking your truth and having the difficult conversations. Like our mutual friend Alex Kugler, I told him the other, like a couple months ago, last time I spoke to him, I was like, man, you're really good at having difficult conversations. You know, he's like, he'll show up every conversation that's difficult. He's like, sign me up.
I know, yeah.
and I love that about him, and I feel like I'm practicing that and cultivating that, and unapologetically like just having those difficult conversations. And I think the reason I think this is such an important piece of the puzzle is because as men and as beings, especially in this culture that we live in, we're very fearful of bringing up something that may irritate or hurt or change the dynamics of a relationship, rock the boat, right? Yeah. And by not speaking to something that's cooking inside of you, we literally are committing a fraction of soul suicide in that moment, right? We're saying my desire to not hurt this individual is more important to me than my desire to speak and express my truth. And this compounded over the years is what creates the culture we live in today. But what I noticed about myself is that as I started getting really more comfortable having these difficult conversations, I started trusting the other person more. So like, because I can deliver that conversation and that person hasn't crumbled into pieces, now I know I'm prepared to listen to this person's truth. I know they're prepared to listen to my truth, and we create a dynamic of warriorship, of fellowship, of brotherhood, instead of this gymnastics that's done around like, what is he thinking? What does he mean? What am I gonna like? All of this,
and then there's assumptions and weird things that happen,
and it turns into something ugly eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I just realized that like, as you do it yourself, as you create that override towards having the difficult conversation, the phone calls, the in-person conversations, everything that itches you, you just clear your plate. Every person that's in your life ends up being a person that can handle it, and you're freaking free then. You know what I mean? Like I just literally an hour ago, I was like, Colin, he was like upsetting me about the video thing. And like, you know, if I didn't express that agitation, I would be in a bad mood right now, you know? But I was like, dude, it's not working. The video thing, we can't do this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I get it, dude, I get it. And now, and we have years of these types of conversations with each other. So it's like, we're clear, we're cool, but that is what creates power, what creates synergy. Like there's nothing in our way. I'll tell you what I feel, you tell me what you feel, and fuck whatever, you know what I mean?
And it builds the trust muscle in yourself. I trust myself to speak my truth when it's like in the moment. It's like, and if we don't flex that muscle, then it deteriorates.
Yes.
And then we build the trust in our own self, and then we build trust in the other. Like you said, we build trust in that people can handle it. They're not going to crumble. People aren't going to flip out and hate us for life. It's like, so we build trust on both sides, you know, inward, and then we create a culture. We create a new community of men that are willing to be honest and authentic, and then appreciate. Like, thank you, bro. I needed to hear that. Nobody's telling me that. You know, help me see my blind spot. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the download I just got was that the way it was with our parents is the way that we think it's going to be with everyone in our life. So like, if we wanted to tell our parents our truth, or a dad or a mom, like they were doing something that was horrible and they couldn't receive us, or if we told them, I always had this illusion of like, if I really told my parents like how they could improve their lives, like they would just crumble to the earth and become stardust. You know what I mean? Like, but I know that's not true, but like, then we carry that with every relationship, you know, and it's like, oh fuck, if I tell him he shouldn't be eating tuna, he's gonna be upset with me. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that. I love that you're bringing that in, and that's a whole nother topic of like our parents and our generation. Sometimes I feel like my parents come from the dinosaur age, and I kind of see it, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's just we have a different set of tools, you know, and we're riding off the backs of all their work, and all of the advances in psychology and you know, emotional development, that they just didn't have these skills and tools. Whereas if our parents were in their 20s and someone like, hey, just speak your truth, it's okay, I love you, no matter what you say, it's okay, they'd be different. You know, so it's like being able to let go of the judgment of our parents or someone else. It's like, oh, that person's like nervous Nelson. Why can't they just speak their truth? Because I see that now that I'm speaking my truth more. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that person's just not embodied. They're, and then part of me starts to judge, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, stop. No, now I'm going the wrong direction. And how can I hold space and invite them in? Hey, brother, like, what do you want to share? What's on your heart? It's cool,
Something else came in. The thing I was talking to you about Larry from the Landmark Forum.
Yeah.
So I'll share a story, and if anybody from Landmark Forum is watching this, the details may be a little wrong, but my friend Mark was at the Landmark Forum, which actually you know about too.
Yeah.
And so your story leads me into this when you say holding space for that, it's something that I've done in the past couple weeks with some relationships about like, tell me what's on your mind. Like, what else? It's like, it's a very powerful tool for a man to hold space for a woman, because women are generally upset about something they're not sure about, and they'll tell you got to freaking do the dishes. And like, a man who's not in tune with the feminine energy is going to be like, okay, I'll do the dishes. But the truth is, like, she's upset with you about something else. There's something that you're not present for something, and that's why she's... So generally when a woman is saying something that you're doing wrong, it has nothing to do with that thing, right? So what this leads me into is that at the Landmark Forum, there was this badass practitioner, Larry, okay? And he's this, like, big black dude, tough dude, like, in his belly, like, he's not a dude you mess with, And there was apparently this white, like, supremacist or some type of white power person there, and the dude was on stage, because when you're at Landmark Forum and you go on stage and basically there's 100 or 200 people listening to your conversation that you're having with the leader. And
so Larry's the leader?
Larry's the leader.
All right.
And he's sitting in his chair, and this dude is like standing up and saying, like, fuck all you black people, or whatever, his like fucking minorities and this and this and this. And the guy, and Larry's like, okay, what else, man? Come closer, I can't hear you. And the guy steps closer, and he's like, you fucking black people have fucked everything up, blah, 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 blah. Come closer, I can't hear you. And the dude's like, fuck you, man, fuck you. Like, I don't know the exact language that's being used, but it's like, fuck you people, motherfucker, you ruined our country, blah, blah, blah. Come closer, I can't hear you. And the dude is in his face, like spitting in his face, like, motherfucker. And Larry's just like, what else? And the dude eventually just breaks down in tears, because unlocked that magic, because that is what. You want to turn that on?
Yeah.
Oh, the battery's dead.
We got more batteries.
All right, should we take a pause, or I'll finish the story on this camera, and then.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, the dude breaks down in tears, and like that's the space that we have to hold.
Yeah.
The download I received from that story and my teachings from my mentor Mark was like, that is the essence of what we can carry into the world. We can literally commit suicide to our needs. To, like, it's an expression in acting, is like you commit suicide to the role. You ever see an actor like Heath Ledger? He commits suicide to the role.
Yeah.
He's dead. Any Will Smith, you watch him, he commits suicide. Like,
there's no Will Smith now.
Exactly.
He's the role.
Had a quick little intermission because the cameras went out. So what else?
Well, it feels like bringing the conversation to. I always like reviewing. I mean, like, all right, what did we talk about? What what are the issues that we're, and where I'm going next is like the balance. The word balance. And the ability to like be soft and listen and attune, and then also the ability to be strong and bold and speak our truth. But then not have to feel like we have to go all the way in one direction or the other. It's like, okay, how do we find a synergy? But like for me, most of my life has been, am I good enough? So I'm gonna be shy, I'm gonna be quiet, I'm gonna be humble. It was the like shadow side of humbleness. And then I would always feel like somebody would have to invite me in to like, well, what do you think? Oh, well, thanks for asking. If not, then I'm just kind of like, just kind of chilling out. And I see that in my dad. I see that pattern, and how like, so the muscle I have to flex is when I feel that, oh, I need to speak right now. It's a feeling, and if I don't share it, then I'm not only am I like repressing my own energy, but then the space isn't getting the gift of my expression. that space is it. There's something that we each bring that's unique, and if you're not sharing that, then maybe no one's going to ask that question, or nobody's going to have that perspective, and then everybody misses out.
And you pull away from the space versus add to it, right?
Yeah.
So like in our manipulation or in our mind, we want to come across a certain way, but when we don't show up, we're viewed as someone who doesn't show up in a way, right?
Yeah.
We're like, I don't know. Like if it's our deepest truths to be quiet and humble, then I feel like people totally love that and respect it. But when you have so much to give and you're quiet and humble, it's like, what's wrong with this motherfucker? Like, why isn't he speaking? You know, like you're almost like not trusted or something, you know?
And it goes with what you were talking about earlier about speaking like if something's upsetting you as well, because like there's a feeling like that story you said when you said something to me earlier about the camera, the frustration. It was fascinating watching you actually processed it like in real time. You were like at the sink, you're like, I'm frustrated. Why am I frustrated? And you're like, and then like you didn't know, you know, and so you had to like speak it out, because we were kind of talking, and I like asked you something, and you're like, yeah, and then you're like, I'm realizing now that this camera stuff is like, it's just pulling me in these different directions, and then we just talked, then you spoke it, you know, so it was like this real time, like you were owning your feelings. It was like you were processing it right in the moment. So yeah, it's like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to know. Like the point is, you don't have to know. It doesn't have to be this graceful thing. It's like all you're doing is just owning it, like that exact feeling and just speaking it. And it was like that, you saying I'm frustrated, then it was like, why am I frustrated? And it sort of started the whatever, the search process or the investigation of it.
And I think that's super powerful to like be able to go through your own processing with a person, a partner, or a friend. I feel like that is the ultimate form of trust, right? Because the person's holding space for you to go through it, as opposed to, so there's certain relationships where I feel like we should have crystal clarity before we bring it up, right? Like if it's a boss, or if it's like some like make or break relationship that will make your career, or do something where it's like you want to be crystal clear for it. But then to always put pressure on ourselves to have to be crystal clear before we speak something, I feel like is a dangerous. I was just talking about this with a client. Like he was going through some huge times with his business partner, and he, you know, and he was saying, man, I don't know what I feel. And I was like, do you feel like you can only speak to him once you know exactly what you feel? What about going into the conversation with something, it needs to be explored together, I don't know what it is, right?
Ooh,
So I feel like the paralysis we have in this culture of not being clear on something, and especially in the new age spirituality, like everyone wants to come in like crystal clear, you know what I mean?
Like
But
they already know.
Yeah. But it's an exploration.
It is.
You know?
That word, and as you were speaking too, both the word came of curiosity, you know, and as you described his process, you expressed and you were curious. Why am I frustrated? So that curiosity is really a very simple mechanism. It's like, oh, how can I be curious about this feeling, this emotion that I don't know yet? And can I open up that space with somebody like, I don't know what's going on, but can we explore it together? So it's like we're inviting in the other person, and it becomes a not necessarily a fun process, but it can be. It's just a process, and it's not. So we don't have to know the answer. Like, I know that if I express myself, then I'm going to get this result from this person. No, it's never the case. So letting go of any of those ideas and being curious to how we can support ourselves or someone else.
And I think you're like right on, and being curious. Like when we start the conversation, the art of it is that I found is the owning. Like I'm curious because I'm feeling this certain way, rather than like putting it on the other person in the relationship. Like I'm curious why I'm feeling like frustrated in this dynamic. Like, would you be willing to explore this, or like I want to explore this here? So.
That gets into the conversation of like prompts for like to help people. Like if you're having these kind of situations, here's opportunities. Just like if we're building new muscle, do this many sets, this many reps, and you start to build that muscle. So one of the skills you can develop is, okay, owning your emotion. I'm feeling this. I'm not sure why. and expressing that to the person who you're with, if it feels safe, right, in the beginning. And it's you know, it's a relationship that you know isn't going to cost you you know, it's like we're building up that muscle, right? Yeah. So being able to have those very simple, like, oh, here's a frame. I'm feeling this. Are you open to exploring it? Can we talk about it? And then their guards down, you know, and they're like, oh, sure. Instead of us, you know, and I know I do this, I'll immediately go to a story sometimes. Like, I'm feeling this, oh, it's because this happened with my wife, or this happened with my work, or it's like, no, it's actually not that, you know. So being able to not jump immediately to a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a, like, the way you described it, when you own it, it seems to usually take the other person's defenses down, where it's like, if you're like, you did this and now I'm feeling this way, it's just an automatic reaction to, like, have a defensive thing. Like, if somebody comes at me and they're like, you're doing this, and then I just automatically want to justify why I'm doing it and all this stuff. So the way you described it, it just really creates an opening. And there's a way to do it, like, because what we're talking about here is, like, how to be more, you know, to be more integrated men. And so there's a way to do it, I think, that I'm still exploring. I don't really fully understand. That's powerful. It's like owning it and not give it. You still have your power and you're not giving it away. And that's a balance, because I'm still terrified of upsetting people, you know, despite all this. Like, there's still that fear that comes up.
What is it that most men are craving, right? Like, what is the underlying cravings? Is it power? Is it to be big, to be, like, embodied, to get ladies, to get money? Is it sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Yeah. Well, you know, like, as you ask that question, I think about these three pillars from, like, the Taoist tradition, and, like, the central pillar is like security. Like, am I secure? Do I feel secure and safe? I want to feel, like, secure in my being, you know. And then the other is, like, acceptance. Like, am I accepted? Am I accepted? You know. And then the other is control. It's like, am I in control? Like, do I have some ability to control my life? Because if not, I'm fucked. But, like, oh, I have control over my work schedule, or I have control over. If we don't have any control, so those three lines, like, all humans have these essential needs, you know. And then acceptance, if we're not coming from a place of clarity, then we search for all the acceptance outside, or we become a control freak. I have to control every single little thing, and now I'm powerful, and you know what I'm saying. And so I think it's a lot of our needs, you know, like, whether it's women or money, stem from these more basic, like, sense of security, sense of acceptance. And every man's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, one pillar may be on, one pillar may be off.
Do you think every man's different, or do you think that, like, at our core it's all the same? Like, and there's a lot of noise in the way and junk in the way.
It makes me think about, what's his name's work? David Data. He talks about some men have you know, more of a feminine polarity, some men have a more masculine polarity.
Right.
So I would say the general man, sure, maybe 80% deal with these exact issues. But then you're always going to have outliers. You're always going to have some unique perspective.
Right.
That's completely, like, different.
I wonder, sometimes I wonder about, like, CEOs, and, like, I was just watching this documentary on Netflix called American Factory. Did you guys see that yet?
No.
It's about this Chinese factory that opened up in America, and the Chinese billionaire was the one who started it. It's the way he walks around, and, like, Chinese billionaire, like, he just doesn't give a fuck about anybody, and he's just total power trip. But I mean, he has some humility to him, but it's funny to put vision on that type of character, right?
Yeah.
Like a Chinese billionaire, literally billionaire. And so, you know, like I wonder how many of these people, if they just took a hit of DMT, everything would just evaporate and crumble in a million pieces, and his whole life would just be shattered in a moment. Because I feel in my heart that man has the same exact deepest motivations than I do,
Yeah.
but somehow in his gymnastics, in his calculator, these actions will take him to that place.
Yeah.
Somehow more money and more factories and slaving 2,000 American workers under his factory, because that was kind of his goal the whole time. That was that would put him closer to his goal of being like an empowered human being, right?
Revenge just came in.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, as men, it's, or women too, but mostly it's like how do we take our control back, or like there's a weird energetic behind that.
I once heard somebody say that there was 3 motivations that men have. It's money, fame, maybe power's in there, I don't know, fame, or freedom was like the 3 main things that motivates men.
Money, fame, freedom?
Yeah. Wealth, fame, freedom.
Wealth, fame, freedom.
Was like, and usually one is stronger, like the strongest of the
freedom.
Freedom.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, what's your what's your thing? What drives you? You know?
Yeah.
And there's like primary drivers, and then there's drivers that we don't even know about, maybe. Right?
Yeah.
There's an interesting. That's a fun journaling
But
exercise.
I think, I mean, it feels like there is something core that everybody, that these core fundamental.
Like, why are we doing this video, right?
Yeah.
We're all trying to like get somewhere, do something, deliver some message. Like, something is there's some force behind the scenes that's perpetuating us in a certain direction, right?
Yeah, and I wonder if there's, you know how there's like higher mode and lower mode? Like, I wonder if each one of those motivations can have a higher and a lower mode.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
So if we were to dive into that concept as an example, just with what you said, money, fame, and freedom. So like there would be maybe a positive and a negative, or a lower or higher vibration of each one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like the negative of freedom would be a lazy bum who just wants to do everything they want and they're not getting anything done.
Yeah.
Whereas a more positive would be, I don't know.
I think it would. Well, I think it would be like wanting to have passive income, so you can live a life. You know, you're not motivated by supreme wealth. You're more motivated to make sure your needs are met, and so you can do whatever you want. And then on an even higher level, I think a lot of us. I read somewhere that all of us are freedom is from the constraints of the ego, and like the spiritual freedom. Yeah.
100 million%.
Yes. Yeah. Like the enlightenment is like the true freedom.
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely like my prime directive when I was 18. It was like, I'm here to become awakened and enlightened. And that's my primary purpose. And everything else is secondary.
I know a perfect example of freedom, the lower mode of freedom. I know somebody who does everything in their life to like make their life as easy as possible for them to have as much time as possible and freedom as possible, but all of that comes from a fear of what's like a fear of, I guess, not having freedom, or a fear of like having a tough life, or fear of adversity.
There you go.
So maybe the lower mode of freedom is a fear of adversity.
Yeah, fear of challenge.
Fear of challenge, right? And then wealth would be like, obviously, like the higher mode would be like a Mother Teresa who was super loaded, but she did everything. She made that money in order to help the world, right?
Yeah.
Lower mode would be like this Chinese billionaire, you know?
Yeah. Or our current president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one?
Fame. I don't know if power was. I don't think he ever said power.
Fame is with power, I think.
Yeah.
I think
those are also like, think about fame and power and like that, like just with like the chakra centers, like the solar plexus energy is that like that healthy relationship with your ego and like power, so that desire for wealth and success, is like also like the solar plexus, but also like the navel, like the navel is like more of the sexual creative life force. So like the money and the connection comes from like having a navel chakra that's like on and in tune. Like, I'm a sexual being. I want to create. I want to create. I want to create projects and businesses. I want to make love to life.
Yeah.
And if somebody's afraid, if they're fear, well then that's first chakra. That's like that fear of survival, that fear, maybe that's more of a freedom thing, the fear and the like, the fear of success, or the fear of challenge, or the fear of putting themselves out there and like, well, here's me. There's always going to be haters. I realize that. So just fuck it. Do it anyway. There's always going to be somebody hating.
Yeah.
So like what we're talking about essentially is these first 3 chakra centers. And in like the Qigong tradition, they would say your lower dantian, which is kind of centered at the navel. But it also would include these other 2. A sense of security, and then a sense of creativity, and then a sense of like self, like a healthy self. Where our ego isn't the bad guy. Our ego is just like, it's more like a child. And like, we don't let the child run the household. We say, hey, I love you. No cookies.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you cannot play with the razor blade. Or whatever. So it's like, I think when we can befriend our ego and treat it more like a child, and kind of make friends with it, make friends with that little boy inside, or I've also heard treating your ego like a wounded animal. Like, hey, like, how do we, we're not going to approach a wounded animal with anger. They're going to bite our head off. It's like, oh wow, how can I be gentle with my ego, and find a way to work with it instead of make it my enemy.
Yeah. So we still have to finish the fame.
Right. I wondered something. I wonder if it's like getting a message out. Like if there's some, or like leading, like thinking of like Nelson Mandela or something like that. Like where you're like,
that would be the higher mode.
Yeah. The higher mode is like making a massive.
Totally. Having influence.
Positive movement.
Yeah.
Lower mode would be like Kim Kardashian,
right?
Or like Cardi B. No, I don't know. Is Cardi B cool?
I don't know.
A lot of people like her, I think. No, let's say like there's one guy that comes to mind. There's the one who's the Cash Me Outside. Like Cash Me Outside. You guys never see that?
No.
What? I'm gonna put it on the screen right now. Dr. Phil's. There's this chick who's like 14 years old, and she's on a Dr. Phil episode, and she's all gangster, and she's like,
I know who you're
Cash Me
about.
Outside.
Yeah.
And then she literally got famous, like world-renowned, millions of followers after that. And she's a millionaire. I think she's in prison now, but she was a millionaire,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I know. I sort of know who you're talking
She was the lower mode of all 3 of those things.
Yeah. I think about someone like Robert Redford, who is a fairly well-known actor, and using his platform for environmental, sustainable projects, letting it be known about. I got a letter. I get all these environmental letters. I contributed once. Now I get 1 million letters. Anyhow, a letter from Pierce Brosnan, talking about the state of our. I forget exactly what it was, climate or whatever. It's like, hey, like this is real, and I want y'all to know, like, this is important. How can we, help, change the world? Right?
Yeah.
Or it's like, I think about the football or basketball stars. They're drinking Coke and Pepsi, and you're like, what are you teaching the kid, man? I respected Tom Brady when he was on a podcast, and he was like, nah, I don't drink Coke. I don't drink soda. Kids, don't drink soda. It's gonna ruin your body. It's gonna ruin your Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That brings in this theme of really choosing that highest moral and value, despite how much pressure is on you to do the opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a theme I was talking to one of my clients about as well recently, which is like the theme of like standing up for like your deepest, most important value for yourself, versus choosing the path of least resistance, which is like, if you do that, you may lose money, you may lose your job, you may lose something. You're gonna lose something if you choose that.
Yeah.
But I feel like choosing that in a moment like that, where this guy could have millions of dollars taken away from him, or lose millions of dollars of contracts because of that. I'm sure he's already settled that internally at that point. But like to deliver that message and to be in his internal truth despite his whole industry going in the opposite direction. It's there's something magical about that. There's something that I feel like you see in all the movies, like Schindler's List, and there's this quality of like choosing that thing relentlessly, no matter who's watching. Whether when you're by yourself or whether there's a million people listening, you choose that thing.
That truth.
That
inner
truth.
truth. Inner truth.
And I swear you become a channel of God when you can do that. You become, that is like, in my opinion, one of the hardest like tests, is like that final thing where it's like all this pressure's on you. You're on the camera, there's news is recording you. What do you say? You fucking say your truth.
Yeah.
Despite how much you lose.
Yeah.
You know? And that is like,
and then you sleep well at night.
you sleep well at night. You'll have less money probably.
But you just gained, you know, in the spiritual tradition, you've gained merit, which is the only thing we're here on this earth to do, is to gain spiritual merit. Because the only thing we take when we die is our level of consciousness.
Wow.
Period. That's all you take.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have so much to say. Go ahead.
No.
Spiritual merit, like that. To me, when you say that, it lights me up. It's like that's the freaking gold. It's like what others, the way, if someone else holds you, if someone else believes your word, I believe that is the ultimate version of success. Like if you say, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing, and you know in your heart that person trusts you to do it, that's more valuable than $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. It's like you're literally, all we are is a ball of energy, and now this other ball of energy trusts you. You know what I mean? Like that's freaking invaluable. Right? And it takes work to be trusted. It takes a lot of freaking work, because there are so many decisions you have to make to like, all right, I told David I'd be there at fucking 3:00. I have to go now. You know, and I told him, and like that's kind of landmark form a little bit, where you hold true to your word. Landmark has it a little twisted, I feel, where it's just to a level of obsession. You know what I mean? Because I think we can receive spiritual merit in other ways besides holding true to our word. Like the Landmark is all about, like, you know, if you say 7:00, you be there at 7:00. So there's some, in my world, there's a little forgiveness. And but
there's a little OCD in there.
Yeah, a little. There is. It's a little too much mind.
Yeah.
But underlying it, it's like that is entrepreneurship right there. You know, we were talking about entrepreneurship. If you can cultivate that spiritual merit with your audience, even if it's just one follower at a time, you, over the long haul, will have a more successful business than the dude who just freaking blows up and makes $1 million and like, you know, is just utilizing all the tricks and the techniques and all of this. You know, it's like that merit is what a successful entrepreneur needs to have at the foundation, so that every video he puts out, everything he does, there's at least one person who's deeply interested in listening to it, because it holds that core of truth, you know?
Dude, speaking of which, I followed this guy for 8 years he was a blogger. He was a free, all his content was free. Yeah. And before,
should I not have said that?
But it was like 8 years before he ever made a dime off me, and because I just trusted everything. I just like followed him, was so just like he spoke his truth like in everything he did, and he always was, and so he just earned my trust to the degree that he never made any money off me until I finally went to his one of his workshops, you know, a couple $100 later. But he invested like it. It wasn't like an overnight thing where I was like, oh, this guy has all the answers. It took that long for me to turn into. But now I'm sort of a lifelong fan. Like anything he does, I'll always listen to.
Tune in. Loyalty. You know, you said the word earlier, brotherhood, fellowship. How do we create a life where we're developing or cultivating? Right, I love that word, cultivating. Like a flower takes cultivation over time. A garden takes cultivation over time. You got to do your weeds, and as soon as you stop for a week, your garden's fucked. And that's how it is with our internal realms. Like we got to keep doing a little weeding, doing a little watering, self-love. With our minds, so, you know, it's like the mind gets so full of weeds. It's just like gnarled up. We're like, oh, I just got to trim that back. Nope, stop that. Nope, delete, cancel. You know? And now we have a garden. We have a space where we can actually build. We have a spaciousness that's like not unencumbered by the weeds of society.
I'm curious because we've been speaking a lot about speaking your truth. What is that for you guys? Because I think that's I hear it a lot, you know, and I don't know if I've ever heard it been broken down. Like what
Are you asking what truth is for each one of us individually? or
Well, I guess the question is kind of, there could be two parts of it. Like,
What is speaking your truth?
What is speaking your truth? And like, yeah.
What does speaking your truth mean?
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, you go ahead.
I feel like there's, like, it's funny because there's these diagnoses for schizophrenia being like, hearing voices and stuff like that. But the funny thing is, like, I feel like we all hear voices. We all, like, have different portals in our mind that we can access and go into. So, like, for me, I have so many different portals that are available to me in a given moment. And the portals are like, wanting to be liked, like fear. There's like saying something to look good. Like there's all of these different, there's like, there's the business hat. There's the, there's the spiritual hat. There's the like wanting to be perfect. There's all of these different places that I can speak from, right? And what my truth is, what speaking my truth means to me is that as I'm saying it, as I'm saying the words, it feels good to say.
Yeah.
As I'm speaking the words, there's not like a shutdown inside. There's not like I'm lying to myself or I'm holding back and there's certain situations where it's like almost impossible to speak our truth. Like I find myself with my family or in certain social situations, like it's just inappropriate to like call something out, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a dance between what that truth is, but also recognizing when it's socially uplifting versus when it's socially crushing.
Yeah.
Right? So like if I'm sitting next to somebody and my truth is like, this dude needs to fucking detox because I get my sense of smell is off the hook.
I bet.
I can smell, like somebody could walk into a restaurant 50 feet away and I can smell them. This is a true superpower of mine. No BS, no lying. I've never said that on camera to anyone.
I've seen it happen.
You've seen it happen, right? I can smell literally it's like a full-bodied, as if they were in front of my face from 50 feet away, and I can taste them. And let's say I'm sitting next to someone and they're highly toxic with heavy metals and parasites. My truth is, damn, dude, you need to fucking stop doing what you're doing. Like, you are gross. You are straight up gross, dude. That actually feels pretty good to say. Like, it's like, it's my truth, Yeah. But there's also the navigation of that truth with how do you uplift humanity?
Yeah.
How do you not crush humanity and uplift it instead? Yeah. Sometimes to uplift humanity, you do have to crush the fake. Like my buddy Arthur Moore is one of the best people in the world I've ever met at crushing fake. Yeah. If there's as a whiff of fake on you or about your word that you just said, he'll just fucking go right in and he'll speak it. He doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care if you're the grocery clerk. Like he'll like attack. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like there's good qualities, there's good thing to that, and there's also it's kind of frustrating at times too. But the point is, like, how can we be in that truth and also uplift humanity?
Totally. Toxic,
Totally.
So.
Is that on?
Yeah.
We're rolling. Okay. So what were you saying?
About every spiritual tradition uses meditation or breath work or movement to go into an altered state or even a more pure state. So that way you're reconnected to that like deeper feeling underneath all of the ego, what the ego thinks, what society thinks. It's like we have this overlay from society of how we should feel, and then we've turned off our own ability to actually feel.
Yes.
And then of course people who have like everybody's had some degree of trauma in their life, so then that plays a role in how we can release those traumas through the breath, through the movement, because our body stores memory. So it's like, when I'm working with clients, it's like as we start to do movements and open their body and they start to breathe more fully again, they're like, and there's a pattern. Everybody who doesn't feel safe, typically their breath is shallow and they can't, and then it feels a little bit unsafe to like let their belly relax and breathe softly and breathe deeply, and And then over the course of time, they learn how to trust their body again. Like, oh, I can trust my body, and I don't have to escape into my mind anytime I feel anxious. You know? And so that feels like I would say the most essential tool for all humans. Like, do we have the tools to recenter and feel our body? Because if we don't, then our compass has no true north.
Dude, when you're talking, I just had a flashback of like my childhood of I became a professional daydreamer. Like I had this as a kid, I would always just like put on my headphones and like I just couldn't like be around my family and parents, so I would just daydream and like constantly like in this other like imaginative world. And on the plus side, it developed this really amazing imagination and like, but it was to avoid like feelings and stuff, like getting out of my body. And so since then it's been so much work to just drop myself back in my body, and it's always a constant, my mind just is a constant pull.
I see that about you.
Yeah, it's just such an automatic like thing that pulls me out, and it has some like beauty and some gifts in it, and but it's a lot of, you know, like as you're talking about breathing and dropping into our body, I actually have to remember and be like, drop in. So yeah, it's really, I mean, it's very important, and I think that sometimes that maybe those traumas that you were talking about, like certain skills can be developed out of them, certain gifts can be really cultivated.
Yeah.
So
totally. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's always you know, vulnerable to bring a little piece of your childhood or something else into the field, you know. Yeah, but it's just a good memory of like, it's like I'm not my thoughts, or like that's just a mechanism, you know. It's just a thing to pull me out and like not feel.
All right, I think we should close out. Do you want to lead us in a little 2-minute breath work, and the audience in a 2-minute breath work?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah, all right. So wherever you may be, sit up nice and tall, feet on the ground, arm extended, and then you can allow your tongue to connect to the upper palate. So we're connecting the front and back channels of our body. And begin to breathe slowly into your abdomen. And begin to imagine the sun inside your belly. And then as you breathe in, feel your belly. Feel your belly. Feel the quality. And let your exhale be real natural and easy. And the question I want you to ask yourself as you're slowing your breath down is, what is meaningful to you? What is meaningful to you? What does your heart yearn for? And then breathe slow and feel your body. What lights you up inside? What lights your body up when you think about it? And then do a few more breaths and just allowing your body to rest, becoming curious. Do one more big, full, deep breath. Actually, just do a few more. I feel real good. So as you inhale now, let the belly expand, and then expand into your lungs. And make a little sound. So whatever came in, that meaning, that soul activation, charge it up. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, bringing in that fresh life force. Exhale, clearing anything in the way. Breathing in, feeling your spine opening, your heart opening. Exhale, letting go of anything in the way, letting go, dissolving. Inhaling, drawing in freshness, curiosity. Exhaling, dissolving, melting those old parts of ourselves with ease and grace. Let's do 3 more. Last one, breathing in full and big and hold it at the top for a moment. Feel that intention to connect to your soul, to connect to your heart. And then exhale all your air. And then rest in that still point of no air. Be still. Feel. Feel that connection to your true nature. And when you're ready, have an inner smile to your heart. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being you. And then massage the belly. Embracing all those parts of ourselves. All the shadow, all the light, all the different portals, and just give ourselves some appreciation. Oh yeah, well, that was fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
David Beaudry, Colin Pomeroy. I'll post their channels in the info description.
Much love, y'all.
Cover the lens with our hands.
We out. Job, dudes.
Feeling pretty charged from that
Yeah.
hour of work there.